Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I hope everyone is having a lovely day. I am having a nice day myself. It's a beautiful, sunny summer day here in my city. And the first thing I wanted to talk about today is that my good friend and fellow researcher Methods is no longer on Twitter. I had a lot of people sending me messages about this. Last time I saw him online was about 3 days ago now. And it's very possible that he could have decided to take some time off. But it's also possible that he could have been deleted. I really hope that he's just decided to take a break. Methods, if you're out there listening, buddy, I love you, and I hope that everything's okay. I have reached out to him and also to the rest of his team, the Speaker 2018 and Sharp Edge 1. The Sharp Edge 1. Speaker and Sharp don't know what's going on, but they are cautiously optimistic that this is just a little hiatus for our good buddy out there. So if everybody could just keep him in your prayers, just in case something is going on, and I'll follow up on this story as soon as I have more information. Now, the one thing that did lead me to take pause was the fact that Twitter has also suspended Project Veritas for the show that they did just yesterday, exposing the censorship of conservatives on Pinterest. So I really hope that Twitter is not starting to take an even harder line, but we have got to be vigilant and keep our eyes open. If you don't follow Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, I suggest you go and do that as well. All right, guys, we'll be right back with the news after this quick word from my sponsor. Hey friends, I want to share something really special with you today from my sponsor Noble Gold, because without their help, I would not be able to make this content for you. Do you remember that moment you became aware of just how much you didn't know? I certainly remember mine, and once your eyes are open, it's impossible to keep them closed any longer. Noble Gold has created something remarkable to remember that moment, so I want to introduce you to the Q coin. A year of painstaking detail went into making this, not just because of the phenomenal design, not just because of the incredible symbolism on the coin, not just because of the sense of belonging it instills, but because it's a big secret hidden in plain sight. If you take a look at the coin, it's loaded with Q quotes, a lightning bolt, 17 references, and so much more. And take a look at the packaging that this coin comes in. It's truly a work of art. Whether you're new to the movement or you've been following for some time, you're going to want to add this to your collection. You can get yours today by going to www.greatawakeningcoin.com. And for this month, you can get a $5 discount if you buy 2 coins. Just use my name, RedPill78, in the discount box, and you'll get these 2 coins delivered to your doorstep. They're simply amazing. The choice will be yours. All right, guys, first up on the docket today is a little tip that came over from my friends Sergeant Server Mom and Neon Revolt. They had located this story from Politico. It's called When Pete Buttigieg Ripped America's Missionary Zeal. It is a puff piece holding Pete Buttigieg aloft and continuing to give him coverage so that he can remain relevant and keep his name in the minds of Americans who are thinking about voting in the next election. Now, I personally don't think that Pete Buttigieg expects to win. He's kind of come out of nowhere. I think that this is all just a test run in the way that many political candidates like to do it. They like to put their toes in the water, put their names and faces into the minds of Americans. And then once the candidate field has shifted to a few lesser Democratic candidates, then Pete Buttigieg will come back and run again in the future. He is right now a darling of the Democratic Party. Now, we're not going to read the article. What I wanted to point out was this picture of Pete Buttigieg. Does everyone see what I see? That's his left eye, and it looks like he's got quite the shiner. We're going to zoom in as far as we can, but clearly Pete Buttigieg has a black eye, and he's wearing makeup to cover up the rest of this bruising and the swelling on his cheek. And I don't know what that means other than to say that there are many people in the cabal who seem to be very unlucky, and they get hit by something or someone and develop a shiner on their left eye. So I've heard it said that this is some type of humiliation ritual that they do to show fealty and to go out into the world, basically showing people that they're marked without actually saying it. Now, I don't know exactly what it means. I don't know who would have done this to Pete Buttigieg, but I can tell you I don't think it was his husband. I think that this is probably something to do with, like I said, him showing fealty to his handlers. Here. All right, next, right here, from Sarah A. Carter. Breaking news, Michael Flynn has hired Sidney Powell. Mueller's pit bull meets his match yet again. Let's go ahead and take a look at the article from Sarah A. Carter. Embattled Lieutenant General Michael Flynn has hired well-known defense attorney Sidney Powell to represent him before his sentencing hearing in Washington, D.C.'s federal court. Flynn, who fired his attorneys last week, will still fully cooperate with the government in all cases pending, Powell told Sarah A. Carter. Flynn's former legal counsel, Robert Kellner and Stephen Anthony, offered no explanation for their abrupt dismissal, telling SarahACarter.com that they declined to comment. He is and will continue to cooperate with the government in all aspects, Powell told Sarah Carter. He and his family truly appreciate all the cards and letters of support from countless people and the contributions to the defense fund, which are even more important now. Powell noted that Flynn's case file is massive and it will take me at least 90 days to review it. Kellner and Anthony submitted a 2-page motion last week to the federal judge. Flynn's sentencing will be based on his 2017 guilty plea to special counsel Robert Mueller's prosecutors for one count of lying to the FBI. The guilty plea has been a source of contention in news reports after evidence and testimony surfaced that the FBI special agents that interviewed Flynn in January of 2017 didn't believe he was lying. Both former FBI Special Agent Peter Strzok and FBI Special Agent Joe Pienka interviewed Flynn about his phone conversation with then Russian ambassador to the U.S., Sergei Kislyak. The interview was conducted just as Flynn began his then role as National Security Advisor for President Trump. Former FBI Director James Comey joked about the Bureau's interview with Flynn. Comey said in an interview that he used tactics he would not ordinarily use because the then fledgling Trump administration was unorganized at the beginning. Basically, he and former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe discouraged Flynn from asking White House General Counsel to sit in on the interview. Flynn, according to several sources with the knowledge, had no idea he was being targeted by the FBI for an investigation. I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized administration, Comey said. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe made a similar statement regarding Flynn, which was uncovered by congressional investigators. Flynn's attorneys said in the filing that they had been notified he is terminating Covington and Burling LLP as his counsel and has already retained new counsel for this matter. Now, Sidney Powell. She is the author of the New York Times bestseller and tell-all book Licensed to Lie, which exposed the corruption within the justice system. The book is based on the case Powell won against prosecutor Andrew Weissman when he was deputy and later director of the Enron task force. Weissman served as Mueller's second-in-command for the special counsel investigation into the Trump campaign, despite the fact that his tactics have been highly criticized by both judges and colleagues. He was called unscrupulous and has had several significant issues raised about how he operated during the Mueller inquiry into Trump campaign officials, including General Flynn. He prosecuted the accounting firm Arthur Andersen LLP, which ended in the collapse of the firm and 85,000 jobs lost worldwide. Maureen Mahoney took the case to the Supreme Court, and Powell consulted. Mahoney overturned Weissman's conviction, and the decision was reversed unanimously by the court. Powell has openly stated in columns and on cable networks that Weissman's dirty tactics of withholding exculpatory evidence and threatening witnesses to garner prosecutions should have had him disbarred long ago. You guys, I am extremely excited about the news that Sidney Powell is going to be representing General Flynn. If there was anyone who was going to take on Andrew Weissman and the Mueller team, it is her. She is very specifically qualified for dealing with this case because she is very knowledgeable about corruption in the judicial system. She is going to point this out, and I would not be surprised if she did not get everything completely dismissed. The fact that we have heard in recent weeks that there has been exculpatory evidence withheld from General Flynn and his team should tell you that alone. Andrew Weissman was also rumored to have threatened General Flynn's son and said that if General Flynn did not plead guilty, then they would go after Michael Flynn Jr. This guy is a scumbag. Andrew Weissman, he's not a pit bull. He is a garbage pail dog. Not a good person, someone who does not deserve to hold a law degree, and I would love to see him getting disbarred after all of these horrible things that he's done, destroying lives, destroying families, destroying entire firms, companies, 85,000 jobs. That is a staggering number of jobs. How many of those people do you think recovered at the same level as when they were working at Arthur Andersen? I think it's a very fair question, and I think that it's fair to say that he probably ruined a fair number of those people. Just the fact that they were involved in this case would have been a black eye on their very career, and it would have been difficult for them to get employment in their field of expertise, even with the fact that it was reversed unanimously. Because even with the fact that it was reversed, that's not the thing that you normally hear. You normally hear about, the corruption of Arthur Andersen, or the fact that the Enron case, Enron was horrible. The fall of Enron caused a recession. I think it's fair to say that the actions of Andrew Weissman were far more damaging than anything else, because he was single-handedly responsible for the destruction of many, many people and many, many families. Andrew Weissman, you better watch out, because Sidney Powell is coming. All right, now from my friend Jay Hurt on Twitter, he sent this over. Just another strange plane crash, this time in Phoenix, Arizona, North Phoenix, Arizona. A plane crashed into a street. It was, again, a small passenger plane. The plane went down near 31st Avenue and Deer Valley Road on Tuesday afternoon near the Deer Valley Airport, so probably on its way to or from the airport. The 50-year-old pilot of the plane reportedly suffered severe burns as a result of the crash, but he was the only person injured, and earlier reports had indicated that a woman was involved, but apparently it was just him. The public is advised to avoid the area because they are still cleaning it up, but the guy is alive. So, if this was an attempt to murder or silence someone, because of the fact that he's alive, there is a possibility that we may be able to hear some information. I cannot wait to see what comes out about this, because, yet again, another small plane goes down in mysterious circumstances. Now, from my friend Cats5, this is some bad news for Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook shareholders are revolting, and they have voted overwhelmingly to oust him as the chairman of the board. It's now clear that independent Facebook investors voted overwhelmingly in support of proposals last week to fire Mark Zuckerberg as chairman and scrap the firm's share structure. Now, according to results of votes at Facebook's annual shareholder meeting, 68% of outside investors want the company to hire an independent chairman, and the majority was up from 51% last year. So this is clearly indication that investors in Facebook are not happy with the way things are going. Facebook has been sloppy with people's information. They have openly doxed private citizens to media organizations, and that's something that we're actually going to be talking about on Saturday. My guest is going to be Sean Brooks, the unfortunate private citizen whose information was given by Facebook to the Daily Beast so that a convicted felon, Kevin Poulsen, could write a hit piece on him for something he didn't even do. So just a quick note about that, and I'm looking forward to releasing that interview this weekend on Saturday night. Now, as we speak, there is a committee hearing going on right now, the House Intel Committee, and Representative Devin Nunes is ripping into Democrats about the Russia hoax. He called the Mueller report a shoddy political hit piece. Now, Nunes, of course, is a hero who relentlessly investigated the former administration's DOJ and FBI officials who illegally spied on President Donald Trump and candidate Trump during the 2016 election. The entire scheme has now imploded, and the collusion accusation has become exposed as a hoax. One would think the Democrats would simply apologize and get back to lawmaking and oversight, but it's clear they couldn't stop this grotesque spectacle even if they wanted to, ranking member of the House Intel Committee Devin Nunes said in his opening statement. After years of false accusations and McCarthyite smears, the collusion hoax now defines the Democratic Party. The hoax is what they have in place of a governing philosophy or a constructive vision for our country, Nunes said, adding that the Democrats assembled us today to analyze the shoddy political hit piece known as the Mueller report. And Nunes is right. The Mueller-Weissman report is a dirty political hit piece against President Trump, and it's full of lies, smears, errors, and omissions. We're going to go ahead and take a look at these videos right here from The Hill.
The entire scheme has now imploded, and the collusion accusation has become exposed as a hoax. One would think the Democrats would simply apologize and get back to lawmaking and oversight, but it's clear they couldn't stop this grotesque spectacle even if they wanted to. After years of false accusations and McCarthyite smears, the collusion hoax now defines the Democratic Party. The hoax is what they have in place of a governing philosophy or a constructive vision for our country. The Democrats assembled us today to analyze the shoddy political hit piece known as the Mueller report.
Now, Devin Nunes is also asking questions about Joseph Mifsud, and he points out, rightfully so, that Mueller frames him as some type of a Russian agent, maybe an asset, or just someone having lots of connections to the Russians. But he also rightfully points out that he was a diplomat to Malta, he was working with the FBI and the clowns in America, and he even denied telling George Papadopoulos that there were emails. So let's go ahead and take a look at this clip. Devin Nunes speaking and questioning Andrew McCarthy.
I want to get to Joseph Mifsud because he seems to be the character at the beginning of this saga. He's supposedly the one who was able to see or knew about emails and had talked to Papadopoulos about emails. Now, only go to what Mueller says in his report. He portrays him as having deep ties to Russia, detailing trips to Moscow and extensive contacts with Russian officials. Now, Mueller stopped short of calling Mifsud a Russian agent. Now, James Comey, the former FBI director in the Washington Post a few weeks ago, in fact, does call Mifsud a Russian agent. I'm not sure what he knows that Mueller does not know. However, my big concern about Mifsud is that he was a Malta diplomat. He worked closely with the Italian government. He's described in the press as a Western intelligence asset by some in the press. He worked at the London Center that's affiliated with many operations in the UK. Has been a guest speaker at numerous foreign policy forums all over the globe. I think most concerning to me, two things are most concerning. One is he was known to train or train with FBI officials in Italy, and also that he actually spoke here in the United States Congress, just steps from not this committee, this is the budget committee that we're in, but just a few hundred feet away from the House Intelligence Committee. In 2017, this was after, he knew all of this, supposedly. And yet, that he was invited by our own State Department. So, Mr. McCarthy, my question to you is, if Mifsud truly is what James Comey says is a Russian agent, we have compromises in the U.S. State Department. We have compromises within the FBI, possibly even the Department of Justice.
Well, look, Jim Comey has a lot more information about Mifsud than I do. I've been out of government for a very long time. I do note that the Mueller report is very careful, I thought, about the way that Mifsud is described. They do not, they say that he's got deep connections to Russia. They don't say that he's got deep connections to the Russian regime necessarily, or certainly to Russian intelligence services. I thought it was interesting that we learn in the Mueller report that Mifsud was actually interviewed by the FBI and denied having told Papadopoulos that they discussed emails. The reason I found that interesting is if there's anything we learned from the Mueller investigation, it's that Mr. Mueller was quite good at bringing false statements prosecutions if he thought that he could prove that the witnesses who they were interviewing had given false information to the FBI. No such prosecution was ever brought against Mifsud, so I just thought that was an interesting fact as well.
And also,
So here's the gist. When we look at everything that Mueller has done, he has been most famously aggressive on pulling people in for process crimes, prosecuting them for quote-unquote lying to the Mueller investigation team. Of course, we have Joseph Mifsud also being shown to have lied to the Mueller team. Why was Mifsud not prosecuted in the same way that everyone else was? Well, he said that Mifsud was a valuable asset, that he was a protected asset. So if Mifsud is a Russian agent, then what is he doing working with all of these United States government agencies? And why is he not being prosecuted in the same way that all these ghosts are being prosecuted as Russian hackers supposedly hacking into the U.S. election infrastructure? It just doesn't make sense. And it points out yet again the hypocrisy of Mueller and Weissman and their team, and the illegitimate nature of the entire investigation. The Democrats have nothing. They are jealous and they are angry that President Trump won and he is getting things done here in America. That's all. They've got nothing to stand on. Now, speaking about President Trump getting things done, look at this, guys. The tariffs worked. Foxconn now plans on increasing U.S. manufacturing because of the tariffs. Yet another win for President Trump and the administration. Now, President Trump's tariffs are working. Liu was speaking at Foxconn's first investor conference in Taipei, where the company also said it was well-positioned to tackle the increasingly tough trade war situation with its production lines across 16 countries. The trade war will have some impact, but it will be limited, Liu said. He also emphasized that Foxconn's investment in Wisconsin was more important than ever before, given the trade war. The longer the Chinese refuse to negotiate in good faith, the more manufacturing will return to the United States. Will our iPhones and iPads cost more? Probably, but too bad. It'll be less expensive than paying for a welfare society that has no middle class. At this point, there's very little incentive for Trump to make a deal with the Chinese that doesn't include transfer of their tech to us. You ever get the feeling that the last thing Trump wants is for China to come to an agreement on trade? The longer this trade war continues, the more manufacturing will move back to the U.S. At this point, China's going to need to make a very attractive offer. Also, if Foxconn moves more manufacturing to the U.S., good luck to the Democrats in 2020. We will probably legally change the state's name to Wis-Trumpson. Gotta love it. That was a quote from a tweet by Bright Star News right here. President Trump is doing business. He is working for America. He is bringing back the middle class. He is bringing business and manufacturing back. We are thriving greater than we ever have before, and that's not the only win. Mexico has also agreed to an asylum change. Mexico agrees to becoming a safe third country. Now, Fox News broke the news today that Mexico agreed to asylum changes in their latest agreement with the Trump administration, and they have agreed to become a safe third country. Earlier today, earlier yesterday, President Trump praised Mexico for their willingness to assist with U.S. border security, something Democrats even refuse to do. President Trump said, "Sad when you think about it, but Mexico right now is doing more for the United States at the border than the Democrats in Congress." On Tuesday afternoon, Fox Business Network broke the news that Mexico has agreed to the Safe Third changes. A source told Fox News that Mexico has agreed to the asylum change where a Central American would have to claim asylum in the first country they step foot in, as opposed to going through Mexico and then claiming asylum in the United States. This is a huge development, guys, and it will literally put a stop to all the caravans. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this clip.
In fact, Mexico has agreed to this asylum change where a Central American would have to claim asylum in the first country he stepped foot in, as opposed to going through Mexico and then claiming asylum in the United States. This is very significant. President Trump tweeted out earlier that he was quoting Lindsey Graham, that Mexico is actually doing more to help the border chaos than Democrats in Congress. Would you agree?
I do. There are a small handful of Democrats that are working really hard to try to make something happen. But what's happening is their voice is getting drowned out by the majority of the Democrats, and that's hurting the entire system. There are people that want to do what's right and take care of the border and secure this border so that we don't have to continue talking about this. But again, for politics, for that base, the majority of the Democrats are saying that no, we're wrong, that, you know, they originally said that this was a made-up crisis, that It was in President Trump's head, but certainly it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger to to where they had to admit that it was a crisis. So they're going to have to pay the piper at some point, and frankly, it's going to help the Republicans and going to help President Trump.
You represent 16,000 border agents. I don't think there's a man in the United States who represents as many people right on the border as you do. Have any of the Democrats who are opposed to the president's policies approached you and said, what's the best way to fix the border chaos?
The opposition, absolutely not. Again, there are a handful of Democrats that have approached us, that have spoken with us, but those that are opposed to President Trump, absolutely not. And they won't, because they know what the answers they're going to get, because they know what the truth is, and they don't want to admit the truth, because if they do that, then they have to give us the funding that we need. They have to put the pressure, and they have to agree that the president was right. They will never do that.
Now, final question on Mexico. We have seen some feints by Mexico before. That is, it looks as though they're going the right direction, then they don't follow through. Trust but verify is an old phrase that we use in situations like this. Do you believe the Mexicans will follow through this time?
I do, simply because the tariff threat still hangs over their head. Those tariffs are economically crippling. It will hurt their economy to where they won't be able to recover. And because the president did not completely and totally remove those tariffs and the threat still hangs over their head, they will do what they need to do.
And John, we should mention, by the way, you don't only represent those 16,000 border agents, you are still a border agent. You still do the work down there. So thank you for that job.
Thank you.
Now, continuing here, we have some tweets from, looks like perhaps a Mexican journalist. This is from a speech by legislators in Mexico. We'll prepare a regional migration management system initiative. What do we mean? That all the countries involved, each one takes responsibility, because migrants from many countries arrive in Mexico, and Mexico can't take all responsibilities. And here is a clip from DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
As long as it is a safe country, is the country responsible for processing the asylum declaration?
I think that's a sensible approach that could work in North America and has worked in the context of Europe and Turkey, Norway and Russia, and elsewhere around the world.
So right here, DHS is on board. This safe third country agreement is going to be a major, major win for us here in America, stopping the influx and the flow of these hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants coming into the United States and seeking asylum. Now they are going to have to seek asylum in Mexico, and Mexico is going to do their fair share. Now, will it stop illegals coming over the border entirely? No, we still need the wall. The wall is going to be there to protect us, but this is going to be a wall before the wall. Well, that didn't take long. Don Jr. testified today to the Senate Intel Committee, and it's already been leaked to CNN. He was interviewed by the highly corrupt members of the GOP-led Senate Intelligence Committee on Wednesday, behind closed doors. Now, last month, the GOP-led Senate Intelligence Committee subpoenaed Donald Trump Jr. to answer questions about his prior testimony to Senate investigators related to the Russia investigation. The Senate Intel panel has interviewed over 200 witnesses and poured over hundreds of thousands of documents as part of their investigation into whether Trump's camp colluded with Russia. The investigation started over 2 years ago, in January of 2017. And Don Jr. previously testified to the committee for 25 hours that he was only peripherally aware of the plans to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. Rhino Chairman Richard Burr dragged the president's son in front of the committee again, and a source has already leaked portions of Don Jr.'s testimony to CNN. Now, as reported by CNN, Donald Trump Jr. told the Senate Intelligence Committee Wednesday that he did not tell his father about the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting, and that he didn't pay close attention to the Trump Tower Moscow project. That was one of many potential deals that had been in the works, according to a source close to Trump Jr. The source said that Trump Jr. also reiterated that he did not tell anyone ahead of time, besides the participants, about the Trump Tower meeting where a Russian lawyer offered dirt on Hillary Clinton, the one that John Kerry led into the country, telling the panel that he did not know what campaign deputy Rick Gates was talking about after Gates told the special counsel that the president's eldest son mentioned a potential offer of negative information at a campaign meeting. In Wednesday's interview, Trump Jr. told the committee that he would never whisper in his dad's ear about the meeting, the source said, because if he had wanted to say something, he wouldn't have kept it a secret. Trump Jr. dismissed that he was extensively briefed by Cohen about the Trump Tower Moscow project, saying that Cohen rarely executed a deal, so he had little reason to pay attention to anything he may have been pitching, according to the source. Trump Jr. also questioned about whether he was aware of former campaign chairman Paul Manafort's conversations with Russians and Roger Stone's discussions with Wiki. The source said that several topics did not come up during Wednesday's interview, included in the initial misleading statement crafted on Air Force One about the Trump Tower meeting and the hush money payments Cohen facilitated in the run up to the 2016 election to silence allegations that Trump had affairs with 2 women. He's very virile. The reality was, there's nothing to change, Don Jr. told reporters after his testimony. I didn't think I changed anything of what I said because there was nothing to change. I'm glad this is finally over and we're able to put the final clarity on that. And I think the committee understands that. The Senate Intel panel, chaired by Rhino Richard Burr, is purposely dragging out the Russia investigation and won't be releasing a final report until the end of the summer. What are you going to find, guys? What do you think you can possibly find at this point in time? Richard, you need to switch sides. You're not a Republican. You're not MAGA. You're not here to help the president and his agenda and the American people. You are standing in the way of the rest of the country progressing, because what we need is closure. We need this whole sham investigation to finally come to an end. Don Jr. did nothing, and if they try to bring charges against him, I'm going to be mad. And finally, Judicial Watch has uncovered documents exposing the former president's State Department as colluding with top Democrat advisor on Trump-Russia conspiracy. So Judicial Watch and the Daily Caller Foundation revealed new documents showing that the former president's State Department was working with House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer's national security advisor, Daniel Silverberg, to work together on the junk Trump-Russia dossier documents provided by Fusion GPS's Christopher Steele. The communications reveal Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland coordinating with Steny Hoyer's advisor, Daniel Silverberg, on the Trump-Russia conspiracy. And this is from Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch and the Daily Caller News Foundation today released 16 pages of documents revealing former Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland and Special Coordinator for Libya Jonathan Weiner coordinating with then House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer's National Security Advisor Daniel Silverberg to work on Russia dossier materials provided by Christopher Steele. Steele is a former British spy and author of the anti-Trump Russia dossier used to justify a series of FISA spy warrants targeting Carter Page. Weiner is a former State Department official in the last administration who was implicated in working with Steele and Clinton associate Sidney Blumenthal to circulate the anti-Trump dossier. Judicial Watch obtained the documents in a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit filed on April 25, 2018 on behalf of itself and the DCNF against the State Department after it failed to respond to 3 other separate FOIA requests. Now, Judicial Watch is seeking many records pertaining to State Department officials and their communication with Glenn Simpson, Christopher Steele, Orbis Business Intelligence, lots of different communications between these people. In an email exchange on September 19, 2016, Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS asks Weiner if he is in town, and Weiner replies for a couple of hours. In an email exchange on September 26, 2016, Weiner emails Nuland asking for 15 minutes of your time today, if possible, to discuss a Russia-related issue from this old Orbis Business Intelligence friend. Orbis was co-founded and run by Russia dossier author Christopher Steele. Nuland's assistant suggests a secure call for the discussion, and Weiner asks his aide to postpone a meeting he was to have with other State Department Bureau of Intelligence and Research to accommodate. This has been going on for so long, you guys. And it's so obvious. It was a snow job the entire time. There never was any Russian collusion. There never was any conspiracy, unless you're looking at the Democrats. If you're looking at the Democrats in the last presidential administration, it becomes patently obvious that that is where the conspiracy lay. They were the ones working with foreign governments. They were the ones working with foreign intelligence agencies. They were the ones who were seeking to break the law and to stop a duly elected president of the United States from taking power. Disgusting display. Every day, something different. Well, I want to thank Judicial Watch and the DCNF for putting this information together and doing the tough work with these FOIA requests, because without them, we wouldn't be getting this information. We wouldn't be learning, because Congress certainly isn't the one releasing it. All right, before I go, I just want to let everyone know to please continue to pray for Methods. Please pray for Cody Snodgrass. Cody, my former guest and the former Black Ops official, he has just gotten out of the hospital, and he really, really needs our prayers and our support at this time. So, as always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.